Thank you, dear viewers, for staying with us. You're still watching Nile TV International's extensive coverage of the first ever Egypt-EU summit that was held in Brussels. And with us now live over the phone is international relations expert Dr. Ahmed Mostafa. Dr. Mostafa, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Mr. Mohammed. Not at all. This is my duty as every week.
Dr. Mostafa, I want to focus with you on one specific element of that historic summit, and that element is political coordination. President Sisi, along with the President of the European Commission and Presidents of the European Council and European Parliament as well, discussed together Gaza, Russia-Ukraine war, Libya, Sudan, Horn of Africa issues, and more. The political coordination file of the summit, how did you see it, sir? And please start with Gaza.
Because you know that Gaza is the most crucial topic right now, and you know the situation is very alarming. And after signing the historical agreement by the 13th of this month, via the via the guarantors and so on, with Mr. Trump and Mr. Sisi and the others, Turkey and Qatar and other countries that are supporting, and the presence of 22 presidents representing, you know, the majority of the strongest West, in addition to the other countries from Asia and so on. Before there is a necessity in this time being, because Gaza and the continuity, as even Mr. Trump said in the Knesset, it will be very difficult for Israel to continue for one more year. And that was reflected, and of course I know that there were like a tacit or a hidden effort of our Ministry of Foreign Affairs and our Minister, Mr. Badr Abdelati. I give tributes for him concerning, you know, such highlighting this issue, and that if we continue, the economic situation worldwide will be in a curse, frankly speaking. And also the EU and the United States, they are not able anymore just to fuel, you know, the war in Israel, because they give them like a grace of time, especially America, 2 years, just to achieve, you know, the objectives of Netanyahu or his fanatic, brutal cabinet.
Yes.
But unfortunately, the three objectives were not achieved, and which is considered like a big defeat for the Israeli side in this regard, which is like a big defeat indirectly to the EU and to the United States. Therefore, we have to switch to another situation, and I think Egypt managed to convince them that enough is enough, and it will never be any more to your favor. Therefore, we have to resort to the peace better than anything else. And today, it is translated in the hard and the strong and the tough messages that already sent to the Knesset and Netanyahu and the other cabinet members, especially Smotrich and Ben Gvir, once they started to mock at Saudi Arabia and mock at the Arab Summit in Lebanon in 2002 and Gaza, you know, ceasefire agreement. And not only that, Mr. Trump, he said, if you continue, I will stop the support to you. This is exactly what made a big shift even in the Israeli situation in this regard. Because, as I told you, the economic situation is very bad. Europe and America, they are very close to a status very similar to 2007, the big recession, but this recession this time, it will be devastating, especially in the West, because of the problem of energy, the problem of the blockade, the problem of a lot of issues contradicting each other in America, the statements of the Federal Reserve governor over there in the United States, the banking system that will be collapsed, and the inability for them just to pay 100 billion US dollar to Israel for more wars and things like that. Also the Ukrainian issues, you know,
before we move Dr. Mostafa, to the Ukrainian issue, just one more point on Gaza. We heard in the press conference yesterday that featured President Sisi and Mr. Antonio Costa and Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen. We've heard consistent talk about from Egypt about hosting a reconstruction conference in the second half of November, and inviting, of course, the EU. We've heard from the EU its readiness to continue to play a part. Of course, they already did in supporting the two-state solution at the UN General Assembly, and now we're hearing that they are ready to play a role in the reconstruction, in getting accelerated humanitarian assistance in, and of course they have a consistent position against the illegal settlement or the potential annexation of the West Bank. My question is, the question here is, what do we expect from Europe in the upcoming period, and how likely is the European role going to expand or be influential in light of the fact that we have an Israeli war crime suspect prime minister that is trying to derail and break up the peace plan and the ceasefire deal that was reached in Sharm el-Sheikh. So how do you see the European role going forward, and how do you see things on the ground going forward, especially, again, that we hear from Mr. Trump, the man who, who proposed this peace plan and who co-chaired the summit in Sharm el-Sheikh with President Sisi? We hear from him conflicting messages and conflicting signals.
Yes, it's a bit complicated, frankly speaking, but as I said, the rallies is still so far erupted in EU. Don't forget that the EU is the biggest funder for Israel as well. The audience should know that. Despite all, the human rights and all blah, 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 this propaganda that is, this is the West and this is Europe and Europe is like the paradise and so on, but in fact it is not true. Number two, there are a lot of pressures because the credibility and the ethical cover of Israel already dropped via the daily violations and the daily killing and the genocide and the Holocaust they did in Gaza. Not only that, and they wanted to exaggerate and they want to confiscate also the lands of the West Bank, as we heard, and there was like a referendum today in the Knesset in this regard, with the presence of American officials, just to say that we are not added and we can circumvent the United States and we can surmount the ability and the capabilities of the United States itself.
Yes.
This is very complicated, and also even Israel more and more they are isolated, especially in Europe, because what we witness in some even cultural and athletic events, like what happened in Norway in the football second match with the Norwegian football team, as well as in Italy. As well as
in Spain,
what was in London concerning the presence of Hakabi team.
Yes.
This is very difficult, and the rallies making a bit exhausting for the police forces in Europe, for the politicians. Every day they're having interpellations via the parliaments. Even in the European Parliament itself, there was some sort of insulting of the head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, because Ursula von der Leyen is a Zionist. Even in the Spain, or the Spanish Parliament, in the Italian Parliament, we witnessed a lot of attack against Meloni over there. In France, what's going on? In Britain, in Belgium, in whatsoever, in Ireland, in the other countries, there is a big pressure on the government, and this rally rallies in Europe, as well as the United States, and no kings in the United States, it was a few days ago.
So how do you see things moving forward? How do you see things in the upcoming period?
They have to be committed, and this is exactly translated in what Mr. Sisi did yesterday, and it was a big accomplishment, and they will sponsor and support, because they already having a full complicity with Israel in distracting Gaza. And this is exactly what our Ministry of Foreign Affairs and our negotiator already insisted on that, and convinced the Europeans to be a part of this, because they were with a full complicity in the destruction of Gaza, because Gaza before October 7th, it was one of the most developmental spots in the Middle East, frankly speaking. And what happened, it was regulated, and it was like a preemptive destruction from Israel, supported by the EU politicians and the government, as well as the United States. Therefore, the people legally who demolished and were a part of such demolishing, Gaza, they have to compensate morally and materially, Gaza and the place they destroyed or distracted. This is the fair, equation of this. If I, caused some material, damage, I have to compensate it. What about, a big, place or a big city like Gaza? And even if we listen to the testimony of Kushner, the son-in-law of Mr. Trump himself, he said, what we witnessed in Gaza, it was horrible, because it was like a city that bombarded via a nuclear, bomb. Yeah. And it was like a testimony from a Zionist.
Dr. Mostafa, Egypt, of course, if we talk about Gaza, we could talk for hours about Gaza, and it deserves to be talked about for hours. But I want to move on quickly now to the Egyptian-EU coordination in Libya, and in Sudan, and in the Horn of Africa, and also the fact that the EU updated Egypt with the efforts in trying to bring peace between Russia and the Ukraine. So what does this tell us about the important role of Egypt being a cornerstone for stability in the region, and about the ongoing increase in coordination between Egypt and the EU in all important security files?
Now, and according to the rule of Egypt via the Gaza crisis, and the strong stance of our side, represented in, the presidency, the intelligence, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I think it gives, it has given Egypt the strongest credibility comparing to any other country in the region. Even better than Turkey, better than any other country, better than the other guarantors, and so on, because we were very adhered to, having the proper responsibility towards our brothers in Gaza. We said 3 no's to them concerning the matter of displacement, and also we invited the supreme leaders like Macron, and then followed by King Philip of Spain, just to come and to see by himself what's going on in some hospitals, that adopted our, injured brothers and sisters from Gaza in this regard. Therefore, all such, stances, as long as Egypt is adhered, and also the other, interaction of Egypt and the role of Egypt in this urgent, Arab and Islamic summit in Doha, as well as the UNGA, and how Egypt, formed like a front, against all such atrocities that's taking place. It gives more, seriousness to the Egyptian situation, and made Egypt restoring its, original role as the scale holder in the Middle East, as the biggest and the oldest and the most civilized country in the Middle East. Not only that, Egypt is also concerning, the economic issues, and besides, the other regional issues like Libya and Sudan and so on, having the proper infrastructure economically, as well as the proper scientific, research infrastructure, and the proper manpower, especially in the South Mediterranean. And also we are members in this Union for the Mediterranean and the Euromed organizations and so on. And all of these having like a proper, or made like a proper dialogue between and facilitated the dialogue and the talks with the European side. All such, elements or backgrounds made it easy just to make the European, because in my view, EU needs Egypt more than Egypt needs, EU. Especially in this time being, Egypt also has like the better and the good diplomacy, opening the door with all partnerships, especially with China and the new alliances like BRICS, like SCO and BRI, with Russia. They made a mediation between Iran and the IAEA and so on, which is like alarming cases that you cannot deny. That made the Europeans felt that yes, that is Egypt. Why we were or why we didn't think of Egypt like this before. This is why it gives us credibility once we start to talk about the matter of the illegal migration and the terrorism concerning these regional issues in South Sudan, in Sudan, as well as in Libya, as well as what's going on in the other, African issue. And also Europe wants to access Africa via Egypt because Egypt is the most qualified country in this regard because, as I told you, Egypt has the proper qualifications comparing to the other countries in North Africa, because some of them they are in a conflict. If we talk about Syria or Lebanon, and also the other North African countries, they are not in the proper communications with Europe in this regard. If we talk about, for example, Algeria and France and the conflict that happened between each other. And so on. Therefore, Egypt has like a consensus and having like a better conditions comparing to the others in the region and even comparing to the others in Africa itself.
So it's a win-win. It's a win-win situation,
yes.
Dr. Mostafa, and building up on what you say and confirming what you're saying, that yesterday we heard in the press conference that featured President Sisi, Mr. Costa and Mrs. von der Leyen, the European side saying that they will help Egypt become an energy hub, and they believe that Egypt should be the energy hub of the region, and that Egypt has been now included in the Horizon scientific research program, that huge 175 billion program. And all the talk about, of course, the people-to-people coordination, cooperation and partnership. Egypt wants that, the EU wants that, and building up on what you say, so it's a win-win situation for all that will be built upon in 2026 when Egypt hosts the second summit. Dr. Ahmed Mostafa, the professor of international relations and the expert of international affairs, thank you very much, as always, for your time.
Not at all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And dear viewers, please stay with Nile TV. In about 10 minutes from now, Panorama News will come your way with the latest in politics, business, and sports. Thank you.